Hello and welcome to the MCQ lecture series. In today's class, we are going to look at some of the important multiple choice questions with respect to international economics. So let's get started. The first question is, who propounded the theory of reciprocal demand? And the underlying options are A. J.S. Mill, B. Adam Smith, C. John Maynard Keynes, and D. Amartya Sen. So here the correct answer is option A. J.S. Mill propounded the theory of reciprocal demand. Alternatively, they can ask you the question in this fashion, that the theory of reciprocal demand was given by whom? And here the answer is going to be J.S. Mill. I hope the question is clear. Let us now move to the next one. They are asking us the meaning of terms of trade, or they might ask us to define it, or also they might ask us the mathematical formulation of terms of trade. So let us look at the question. What do you mean by terms of trade? And the underlying options are A. Index of export price divided by index of import price multiplied by 100. The second is index of import price divided by index of export price into 100. The third is index of trade minus remunerations, and the last is none of the above. So here, what do you mean by terms of trade, or what is the mathematical formulation for terms of trade, or define terms of trade? The correct answer is going to be option A. It is the ratio of index of export price divided by index of import price into 100. So option A is the correct answer to this question. I hope that is clear. Let us now move to the third question, which talks about the types of terms of trade, and the question is, what are the different types of terms of trade? And the underlying options are A. gross barter terms of trade, B. net barter terms of trade, C. income terms of trade, and last is factorial terms of trade. Now these factorial terms of trade can be subdivided into two, that is single factorial terms of trade and double factorial terms of trade. I will talk about all of these in greater details in the same lecture. So we will look at the questions later on, but let us now first look at this question, which talks about the types of terms of trade, and we have to select the correct answer amongst the following which is available to us. So the first option is A and B, that is gross barter and net barter terms of trade. The second option is B and C, which means net barter terms of trade and income terms of trade. The third is A and D, which is gross barter terms of trade and factorial terms of trade, and the last is all of the above, that means gross barter, net barter, income and factorial. So here the correct answer is all of the above. That means the different types of terms of trade are gross barter terms of trade, net barter terms of trade, income terms of trade, and in terms of factorial we have single factorial and double factorial terms of trade. I hope the question is clear. Let us now move to the fourth one. The fourth one is, international trade promotes the welfare of dash. International trade promotes the welfare of whom? And the first is all the participating countries, second is only exporting countries, third is only importing countries, and last is only developed countries. So international trade promotes the welfare of all the participating countries. This was pretty easy. So option A, all the participating countries, is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope that is clear. Let us now move to the next one. Now specifically we are looking at gross barter terms of trade, and the question is, define gross barter terms of trade. Gross barter terms of trade means what? These can be the possible formulations of the questions. Let us look at the question. Gross barter terms of trade means dash, and the underlying options are A. total physical quantity of imports divided by total physical quantity of exports multiplied by 100. So the ratio of total physical quantity of imports divided by total physical quantity of exports, and you multiply that by 100. The second is total physical quantity of exports divided by total physical quantity of imports multiplied by 100. Third is index of trade divided by index of foreign investment into 100, and last is none of the above. So here the correct answer is gross barter terms of trade means total physical, or the ratio of total physical quantity of imports to total physical quantity of export multiplied by 100, and therefore option A is the correct answer to this particular question, which talks about gross barter terms of trade. I hope that is clear. Let us now move to the sixth question. The sixth question is, gross barter terms of trade takes into its ambit dash What are the things which are dealt under when we look at gross barter terms of trade? The first is only trade items, second is only services, the third is only money or finances, and last is trade items and unilateral payments. So, here the correct answer is option D, trade items and unilateral payments. That means gross barter terms of trade takes into its ambit trade items and unilateral payments. So, therefore, option D, trade items and unilateral payments is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope that is clear. Let us now move to the seventh one. Who pronounced the idea of gross barter terms of trade? Who propounded or pronounced the idea of gross barter terms of trade? And the underlying options are A. John Maynard Keynes, the second is Adam Smith, third is F.W. Taussig, and last is Alfred Marshall. So, here the idea of gross barter terms of trade was first put forth by none other than F.W. Taussig, and therefore option C, F.W. Taussig, is the correct answer to this particular question, which talks about the idea of gross barter terms of trade. I hope that is clear. Let us now move to the eighth one. The eighth is dash is the index of the value of exports divided by the unit value of imports. What is the index of value of exports divided by the unit value of imports? That means usually it is the value of exports measured in terms of import goods. So, what do you call such a concept? Whether it is A, income terms of trade, whether it is B, net barter terms of trade, whether it is C, gross barter terms of trade, or none of the above. So, here dash is the index of value of exports divided by the unit value of imports. It is nothing but income terms of trade. So, income terms of trade is the index of value of exports divided by the unit value of imports, and therefore option A is the correct answer to question number 8. Let us now move to question number 9. The question is, the concept of income terms of trade was given by dash. Who gave the idea of income terms of trade? Whether it was first F.W. Taussig and Smith, second is Smith and Keynes, third is G.S. Dorés and H. Stehele, and last is none of the above. So, here the correct answer is option C, G.S. Dorés and H. Stehele gave the idea of income terms of trade, and therefore option C is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope that is clear. Let us now move to the next one, question number 10. What is true about income terms of trade? What is true with respect to income terms of trade? And the underlying options are A, increased capacity to import, B, increased capacity to export, C, no change in importing or exporting capacity, and last is none of the above. So, here what is true about income terms of trade? So, the correct answer is option A, increased capacity to import is true with respect to income terms of trade. So, option A is the correct answer to question number 10. Let us now move to the next one. What do you mean by an offer curve in international trade? An offer curve, and the underlying options are A, it shows the quantity of a product a country can export for each quantity of another product imported. Second, it shows the demand curve of firms and the demand curve of the industry. Third option is shows the financial position of firms in exporting and importing countries, and last is none of the above. So, here what do you mean by an offer curve in international trade? An offer curve shows the quantity of a product a country can export for each quantity of another product imported, and therefore option A is the correct answer with respect to offer curves in international trade. I hope this is clear. Let us now move to question number 12. The question is, who gave the concept of single factorial terms of trade? Who gave the idea of or the concept of single factorial terms of trade? Whether it was A, Karl Marx, whether it was B, Joseph Schumpeter, whether it is C, Jacob Wiener, or D, none of the above. So, here the correct answer is the concept of single factorial terms of trade was given by Jacob Wiener, and option C is the correct answer to question number 12. I hope that is clear. Let us now move to the next one. Dash implies a ratio of the export price index and import price index adjusted for changes in the productivity of factors used in the production of export good. What means or what implies a ratio of the export price index to import price index adjusted for changes in the production of factors used in the production of export goods, whether it is A single factorial terms of trade, whether it is B double factorial terms of trade, whether it is C net barter terms of trade, or none of the above. So, here the correct answer is option A, single factorial terms of trade implies a ratio of the export price index and import price index adjusted for changes in the productivity of factors used in the production of export goods, and therefore option A, single factorial terms of trade, is the correct answer to this question. I hope that is clear. Let us now move to the next one. The question is dash takes into account the change in factor productivity both in domestic export industries and the export industries of the foreign countries. What takes into account the change in factor productivity both in domestic export industries as well as export industries of the foreign countries, whether it is A single factorial terms of trade, whether it is B double factorial terms of trade, whether it is C net barter terms of trade, or none of the above. So, here the correct answer is it is nothing but double factorial terms of trade, which takes into account the change in factor productivity both in domestic export industries and the export industries of foreign countries, and therefore option B double factorial terms of trade is the correct answer to this question. Let us now move to question number 15. Which concept was introduced by Jacob Weiner to correct the net barter terms of trade? In order to correct the problems associated with net barter terms of trade, Jacob Weiner introduced the concept of A single factorial terms of trade, B gross barter terms of trade, C income terms of trade, or D none of the above. So, here the correct answer is, even in question number 12 we have seen who gave the concept of single factorial terms of trade. It was Jacob Weiner. So, here Jacob Weiner introduced this concept of single factorial terms of trade to correct the problems associated with net barter terms of trade. So, here option A single factorial terms of trade is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope that is clear. Let us now move to question number 16. The question is, which of the following factors affects terms of trade? What can be the possible factors that affect the terms of trade? Whether it is A reciprocal demand, whether it is B changes in factor endowments, whether it is C changes in technology, and last all of the above. So, here which of the following factors affect terms of trade? It is rather all of these things, that is reciprocal demand, changes in factor endowments, as well as changes in technology, and therefore option D all of the above is the correct answer to this question. Let us now move to question number 17. Similar sort of question, which of the following factors affects terms of trade? And the underlying options are A changes in taste and preferences, B tariff policy, C devaluation of currency, and last is all of the above. So, devaluing currency, tariff policy, and changes in taste and preferences are all the reasons for or reasons which affect terms of trade, and therefore all of the above, option D is the correct answer. So, here in question number 16 and 17 we have seen 6 important factors that affect terms of trade between countries or between nations. They are A reciprocal demand, B changes in factor endowments, C changes in technology, D changes in taste and preferences, E tariff policy, and F devaluation of currency. Therefore, these were 6 important factors that affected terms of trade. In last 2 questions we have discussed them. Let us now move to question number 18. An arrangement where goods and services are sold and bought across international borders with little or no government tariffs, quotas, subsidies, or prohibitions is called as what, or is called as dash. It is an arrangement where goods and services are bought as well as sold across international borders with little or no government restrictions or prohibitions. What do you call such a thing? Whether it is A free trade, whether it is B partial trade, whether it is C protectionism, or D none of the above. So, here the correct answer is option A free trade is an arrangement where goods and services are sold and bought across international borders with little or no government prohibitions, and therefore option A free trade is the correct answer to this question. Very important concept in international trade. Let us now move to question number 19. The question is, which of the following denotes the arguments for free trade? Arguments for free trade. The The first is advantages of specialization. B is all-round prosperity, that means people will get jobs, they will get quality goods and services and things like that. Third is competitive spirits, that means all the industries will be in cutthroat competition, and as a result of that they will produce more, export more, and in that sense they will grow. And the last is all of the above. So here, which of the following denotes the arguments for free trade? Rather, all of these are arguments for free trade. That means option D, all of the above, is the correct answer, which particularly means advantages of specialization, all round prosperity, competitive spirit, all these are favoring the policy of free trade, and therefore option D, all of the above, is the correct answer. Let us now move to question number 20. Again, similar sort of question. Which of the following denotes the arguments for free trade? And the underlying options are A, free trade helps in technology transfers. That means India doesn't have, for example, say technology in production of mobile phones, and as a result China is really good with it, and then therefore because of free trade China might also transfer the technology to India, and India will also become efficient in production of mobile phones. The second is lower government spending. The third is increased economic growth, which is quite obvious, and last is all of the above. So here, if you see which of the following are the arguments for free trade, here all of these are the arguments for free trade. That means lower government spending, increased economic growth, as well as technology transfer denotes the arguments for free trade. So in question number 19 and 20, we have seen 6 important arguments for free trade, and they are advantages of specialization, all-round prosperity, competitive spirits, technology transfers, lower government spending, increased economic growth. So these were 6 important arguments for international or for free international trade. Let us now move to the next question, which is talking about the arguments against free trade. So the question is, which of the following denotes the arguments against free trade? The first is job outsourcing, second is poor working conditions, third is degradation of natural resources, and fourth is all of the above. So what can be the possible arguments against free trade? Because of free trade, a lot of job is outsourced, so in domestic terms we are losing out on jobs. B is poor working conditions, C is degradation of natural resources, that is a harmful impact of free international trade on degradation of natural resource, and D is all of the above. So here the arguments against free trade are denoted by all of these points, that means job outsourcing, poor working conditions, as well as degradation of natural resources, and therefore option D, all of the above, is the correct answer. Let us now move to the next question, which is again in a sense talking about the same sort of argument, which is against free trade, and the question is, which of the following denotes the arguments against free trade? And the underlying options are domestic industries lose out to cheap imports. That means, for example, let us assume that domestically firm A is producing a mobile phone and selling in the Indian market at rupees 1000, and if you look at China is really efficient in the production of say mobile phones, and therefore what they will do is they will start exporting. Now they export, and we for example in India it is considered as an import. So what will happen is the domestic industry which was producing mobile phones and selling it at $1000, these cheap imports which are coming in India are coming at rupees 500, and as a result your domestic industry is going to lose out. So that is the first point. The second is workers will lose job if domestic industries suffer. This is very explicit impact of domestic industries losing out to cheap imports. The third is regional concentration of industries. Only certain regions wherein industries are concentrated will start benefiting out of free trade, and therefore that is a very bad thing for a country like India. And last is all of the above. So here again the arguments that were against free trade are denoted by all of these 3 points. That means domestic industries lose out to cheap imports, workers will lose on their jobs if domestic industries suffer, and regional concentration of industries is also in a sense harmful. So therefore option D, all of the above, is the correct answer. So in question number 21 and 22 we have seen 6 arguments against free trade. In the next question as well we are looking at the arguments against free trade. Let us look at what are they. The question is, which of the following denotes the arguments against free trade? And the underlying options are A, risk of too much dependence on imports. That means if at all the country is engaged in free trade, then it will depend more on imports per se to meet its day-to-day requirements, that is the risk which is associated with it. Second is infant industry will suffer, that means there is a small industry which just started and is producing certain product, but there is free trade, and as a result of that there's some domestic there's some cheap import which is coming, which is altogether affecting the infant industry, and that infant industry is going to suffer. Third is unfair competition, and last is all of the above. So here again, which of the arguments are against the free trade, which arguments are against free trade? All of these are, that means risk of too much dependence on imports, infant industry suffering, and unfair competition, and therefore option D, all of the above, is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope that is clear. So we have seen the arguments for and against international trade. Now once we have seen for and against free international trade, to be very precise, now we will look at the other aspect of it, which is called as protectionism, and then this will mark the end of chapter 3 from your syllabus. So chapter 1 and 2 I have already covered, so you can, I'll put the link in the description so that you can check that video as well. So here let us look at the last 3 questions from this chapter, which is in relation to protectionism, and the question is, dash is defined as the policy of shielding domestic industries against foreign competition by means of tariffs, subsidies, import quotas, or any other restrictions or barriers on imports, whether it is A, free trade, whether it is B, protectionism, whether it is C, international trade, or D, none of the above. So here it is clearly mentioned that the policy shielding your domestic industries against foreign competition by the means of various tools or barriers like tariffs, subsidies, quotas, and any other forms of restrictions. So such a policy is defined as a protectionist sort of policy, and therefore option B, protectionism, is the correct answer to this question, which suggests that protectionism is defined as the policy of shielding domestic industries against foreign competition by the means of tariffs, subsidies, import quotas, or any other restrictions or barriers on imports. So I hope that is clear. Let us now move to the next question, which talks about arguments in favor of protectionism or arguments for protectionism. So let us look at it. The question is, which of the following denotes the arguments for protectionism? And the first option is it protects domestic employment. Second is it protects infant industries. Third is it prevents dumping. For example, China is very efficient in the production of steel, and they produce this tin sheets or steel sheets which are there, and they are producing it on a very large scale, and therefore that is a very excess sort of production with them, and therefore what they will do is that excess production will be dumped in neighboring countries like India, and therefore to prevent that you have to employ a tool called as anti-dumping duties, but we shouldn't get into all the technicalities here. Protectionism is going to prevent dumping, and last is all of the above. So here again, arguments for protectionism are denoted by all these 3 points. That means all of the above is the correct answer, which suggests that protectionism will protect domestic employment, protect infant industries, and also prevent dumping of excess products by the neighboring countries or by countries which are engaged into trade with India per se. I hope this is clear. Let us now move to the last question in relation to chapter 3. The question is, which of the following denotes the arguments against protectionism? And the underlying options are A, market distortions, B, higher prices for consumers, C, extra cost for exporters, and D, all of the above. So here, which of the following denotes the arguments against protectionism? These are all the points which are talking about the arguments which are against protectionism. That means market distortions, higher prices for consumers, and extra cost for exporters, and therefore option D, all of the above, is the correct answer to this particular question. I hope the questions related to chapter 3, which specifically talked about the terms of trade or the concept of terms of trade, and also the policies of free trade and protectionism, are pretty much clear. In the next lecture, I'll start with the next chapter. So please stay tuned for more. Thank you.